What is the fastest thing you may see in the sky but never hear coming? If you said an alien spaceship, you're not far off from the truth. After all, NASA is deeply involved in this super project. The X-59 is the next best thing. It is a supersonic jet with technology so advanced that it breaks the laws of sound. Usually, when a plane is very fast, it generates a cracking sonic boom that rips through its path, informing all who are below of its arrival and passage. This has been the norm, until now. NASA is on a mission to demonstrate that it is possible to fly at the speed of sound without generating the sonic booms overhead. This new technology is much quieter and faster than anything NASA has ever made in the past. So what is the story behind this speed demon? And what is NASA's obsession with sound? Before we go into detail, let's fasten our seatbelts, click on the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and it's autopilot from here. If you know anything about NASA, then you know it stands for National Aeronautics and Space Administration, implying that it is concerned with innovative aircraft. On the 12th of January 2024, NASA, in collaboration with Lockheed Martin, formally launched the slick-shaped needle-mouth X-59, the quiet supersonic aircraft. This event unfolded at a ceremony in California. The X-59 is the missing piece of the puzzle to NASA's Quest mission. Quest in this context means quiet supersonic technology, and it seeks to solve the age-old sound barriers to supersonic flights over land. Since the year 1973, the Federal Aviation Administration banned commercial aircraft from flying at supersonic speed, which is way faster than the accepted standards, specifically because of the thunderous and disruptive sound emitted. This sound is caused by shock waves that build up when an object travels faster than the speed of sound. The law applies to non-military aircraft and was enacted to stop them from startling the public, as these sorts of sounds usually bring concern or cause fear of damage and property destruction. The law was passed on the 27th of April, 1973, and was mainly influenced by public opinion surveys carried out within cities where the jets were flown. According to reports, people expressed concerns about how loud the sound was and how unsettling it was to hear these sonic booms, which admittedly is sort of scary when you've seen Top Gun. In some cases, the effect of the sounds even made windows rattle in a World War type of way. Although there have been numerous researches to find solutions to the sonic boom problem, the technology in the 60s and 70s wasn't sophisticated enough to provide any real answers. Until today. Let's take another flight into the past, this time as far back as the origins of the supersonic flight ban for commercial flights. Those were dark times. By dark, we mean that the technology was in its infancy. The year was 1947, and the rocket-powered XS-1 airplane had just broken the sound barrier to initiate the new heroic era of jets that could travel faster than sound. The XS-1 was the first of its kind. At the start, it was all about designing X-planes that could fly faster and higher than their predecessors. No one gave a second thought about the impact of these supersonics. This was also because the site where this research took place was coincidentally sparsely populated. However, the strange sounds that accompanied the airplanes as well as the atmospheric shock waves became of interest. These interests and complaints heightened as the Air Force and Navy began to fly more jets across various bases around the nation. The sounds were alarming, to say the least. From 1956 to the 60s, the Navy, Air Force, and NASA, in collaboration with FAA, studied the mechanics of sound and how the booms were formed, under what conditions, and how they affected the buildings surrounding that area. At that time, residents of Los Angeles, Chicago, Dallas, and Denver experienced the sonic booms from the high-altitude jets. Two of the impact studies, St. Louis 1961 and Oklahoma City 1964, showed significant evidence that the general public was not in support of the unsettling sounds ripping from these fighter jets. The surveys generated made news headlines and accumulated very negative feedback about the whole project. The projects to minimize the sound of supersonic transportation, SST, became so prominent that in June 1963, John F. Kennedy announced a special interest in prioritizing the project for the future of transportation. However, discussions started cropping up due to its environmental impact. One major event showed the potential dangers of the sonic boom. On the 31st of May 1968, during an Air Force ceremony in Colorado, an F-105 Thunder Chief fighter jet shattered the sound barrier while at 50 feet over the Force Academy school grounds. The accompanying sonic boom caused over 200 windows on the side of the chapel to explode. More than a dozen people sustained injuries from the effect of the blowout. About a week later, the New York Times published a story on the event in Colorado, which presented the dangers of the jet to the well-being of people. Many even claimed to have been scared to death during the experience. On the 21st of July, the U.S. Congress gave directions to the FAA for the development of control and abatement standards for aircraft noises. After a few years, the FAA made rules that restricted civilian aircraft from going at a speed greater than the Mach 1. In May 1971, everything changed. The Congress decided to discontinue the SST program and effectively banned supersonic civilian aircraft. In recent times, aeronautic challenges have greatly evolved and the technology to fly supersonic is now available. Like Cohen said, if the sound on the supersonic flight isn't loud enough to bother anyone, there's no reason why the airplane can't be allowed to fly at supersonic speed. The SST project is the future of transportation, aimed at commercializing supersonic planes that can carry up to 300 passengers to anywhere in the world at 3 times the speed of sound. Several factors also affect speed and sound, such as altitude and temperature. According to Peter Cohen, NASA's Quest Mission Integration Manager, sound is an integral aspect of the project, and the core mission of Quest is to create a jet that drastically reduces the noise that people hear below to a mere thump instead of booms. A part of NASA's legacy is the studying supersonic movement of objects. This heritage dates back more than 70 years ago. To date, the research has taken years of dedicated prototyping, with the latest wind tunnel tests utilizing advanced computer simulation tools that can be replicated in real life. The Quest mission can be divided into 2 parts. The first part is to design and develop an aircraft with the most unique shape that can greatly suppress the sonic boom reaching the ground when the object traverses the skies. The sound must not exceed the sound made when closing a car door. The second part of the mission is that once the development of the aircraft is complete, it will be tested by flying the superjet over a few communities in the United States to gather information on how humans below responded to the sound of the aircraft. That is, if they even noticed the sound at all. This is all in a bid to find out if the sounds are disruptive to the public, acceptable, or negligible. The next step would be the transfer of this data from the various communities to the federal regulation bodies to enable them to establish the new standards for the overland supersonic jet. Public acceptance is another aspect of the supersonic aircraft. The issues today transcend noises alone. There are laws concerning emissions, impact on climate, and other factors that are yet to be addressed. NASA's 925-mile-per-hour X-59 supersonic jet is set to open up opportunities for reduced flight time in the air travel industry. There is a need to continually test the core principles of aeronautics, finding new ways to piece together ideas that will change the future of traveling as we know it. The X-59 is not a destination to achieving great heights in experimental aircraft. What are your thoughts on supersonic transportation? Let us know in the comments. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more exclusive content. That's all from us. We'll see you in the next video.